Hello, Professor. Today's a beautiful day.
Beautiful day to discuss some statistics.
Yay! We're going to be discussing about what we found interesting throughout the Statistic project.
A little bit of how we did it.
And we're going to start by explaining
what the Case-Shiller Index actually is. And it's an assembly of indices of residential housing prices calculated and collected monthly by Standard & Poor's.
what the seasonal adjustment is, which are adjustments made to data collected to account for variations due to the seasons.
Alright, LA's prices were the highest overall. They reached into the 260s. Seattle's peaked out in mid 2007 roughly, and Atlanta's were the only home prices that actually dropped below 100 on the Case-Shiller Index. They all show similar patterns, rising and falling between mid 2004 and late 2008. This could be due to the recession of between 2007 and 2009, and this is represented by a steep negative slope on the graphs provided by Case-Shiller.
We found that the mean for LA was 182.90. For Seattle, it was 142.56. And Atlanta, the mean was 113.82. The numbers represent average percentage change in house prices over the months from January 2000 to January 2014.
So the term being underwater on your mortgage means that you actually owe more on the house than your house is actually worth, which is still relevant today.
We found that the standard deviation for LA was 48.89. For Seattle, it came down to be 25.29, and Atlanta 12.87. Standard deviations are different because of each city. Each city has different outliers that affect the city.
Alright, so Atlanta's range was 53.93. It's important to look at the range because if you're just looking at the starting and ending dates, you can't really see what is happening in between there. And having Atlanta be the only city that drops below 100 for a really significant amount of time, just looking at the beginning and ending is not accounting for that deficit, the outliers that lie there.
From the histograms that were created, we found that the bin was between 169.568 and 204.356. The frequency here is 45. 45 over data points fall within this range.
Alright, so Seattle and Atlanta show similar patterns, rising and falling around the same time, and this can be due to the nationwide economy because the overall economy is going to affect every city, regardless of size or location, and it's going to follow a similar pattern because it's the entire economy. Each city itself is going to have varying data points, but the overall pattern is very, very similar and should be relatively the same.
We ran correlation coefficients between all cities. We decided to pair cities by LA and Seattle, LA and Atlanta, and Seattle and Atlanta. For LA and Seattle, we had a strong correlation of 0.87077. For LA and Atlanta, it was a strong correlation, which was 0.70658. And for Seattle and Atlanta, was a moderate correlation, which was 0.58695.
So ran our t-test, and based on the p-value we got, Washington D.C. and Seattle don't differ in means very much. The p-value we got was 0.499, and since that is greater than 0.05, that's how we can determine that the means are not significantly different.
Some variables that we found that affected home prices were demographics, interest rates, population, and cost of commodities.
So we ran regressions for each city based on our dependent variable, which is our home indice prices, and then our independent variable we chose to be the amount of money a family spent in gasoline per month, and each city provided different regressions. Seattle's appears to be the strongest, and it is positive. All of the data points seem to be very moderately condensed around the the line there. LA and Atlanta have moderate correlations. I mean, their plots were a bit more scattered. LA had a positive correlation as well, and Atlanta was actually the only city that had a negative correlation, and we're curious as to why that is. But very interesting. But it could have to do with driving in the cities, as LA and Atlanta tend to use more public transportation than, say, Seattle, as it's more urban and people tend to be driving more in the Pacific Northwest.
And this concludes our statistical data and analysis. We are happy to have done this project, and I present to you Kelsey.
This is Jessica Rodriquez over here.
Kelsey Leland.
We had a great semester, Professor, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Bye.